First impression, they seem pretty comfortable, very protective, and maybe a little bit clunky. About 2 miles in, I started feeling just the tiniest little hot spot on top of my third little toe. I think it's rubbing of the attachment between the tongue and the upper. Very minor, it'll probably soften up. So I do think the combination of the somewhat loose heel, the elevated heel, taller than I am used to, and the lugs, all in combination, do make my heel a little bit less stable, slightly more likely to turn if I land on it at a funky angle on a rock. The front 3/4 of the shoe landing on rocks, on roots, on flat feels just as stable, feels very stable. Just had a solid toe kick on a rock, head dead on, and these shoes are a whole lot more protection than my previous shoes. That's definitely points for the Cloudventure. I've stubbed too many toes and gotten too many brown toenails, blue toenails, rainbow toenails.
No toenails.
No toenails, not yet. 7 miles in and I'm pretty happy with the shoes. They're very comfortable, just the one little hot spot on the top of my toe. Other than that, no blisters, no pain, no unusual pressures. They feel fairly stable. I'm happy so far. There's a very small pressure point on the outside of my right heel where the upper of the shoe was contacting during the longer run yesterday. Very minor, but I can still feel it one day later. Just a little bit of slipping on some wet rocks, only slightly more than my normal shoes. Switching back to my old Adidas, there's a few differences. I've got a bit better of a ground feel with these, probably partially because they're worn out. My old shoes grip just a little bit better on wet rocks. The Cloudventures have much better protection around the toes, much better support and padding, and I'm definitely very happy with the move to the new shoes. Back to the Cloudventure shoes, and no major updates. Still a little bit loose in the heel and a bit of pressure on my ankle bone, but other than that, very comfortable, very protective. I'm quite happy so far with the switch. 87 degrees and no blisters, so that's good news. And less pressure on my heel. I believe the shoes are softening up. I've been trying to make some adjustments to land less on my heels and to have a gentler landing on the balls of my feet to decrease the stress on my knees and my bones. And with these shoes, with a toe landing, the heel is just a little bit less secure. I may need to lace up my shoes a bit differently to tighten down the heel a bit. I tend to have warm feet, and so far on a 83-degree Fahrenheit run, high humidity, it's been very comfortable. My feet are warm, but definitely not as well ventilated as my Adidas, which are ripped open with holes in them. So I took my old Adidas out for a walk today, and while they're extraordinarily comfortable, in contrast to the new Cloudventures I've been wearing regularly, these Adidas are not anywhere near as protecting or as firm and secure as the Cloudventures. I took the shoes out today for a 9-mile loop. Mount Lafayette. It's a very stony, rocky hike. No stubbed toes, no impacts that have been painful. Fairly secure, and the water protection around the bottom half has been quite nice. Heel's just a little bit loose, and the lug, if you hit right on the edge of the lug on a sharp rock, does twist your ankle just a little bit. So I did actually, my toe just turned sideways a little bit and hit a little bit of a hole. The toe protection on the top is great, but the toe protection on the sides of the top is not quite as good. So 100 miles in, and the shoes are still holding up pretty well. My feet are still happy with how they are, with how comfortable they are. You can notice here for one of my first dark runs, got some nice reflection on the various ON labels, including on the sides and the tongue and the back as well, though with my light colored skin I hardly need the extra reflection. The shoes are still holding up well. We do have this peeling of the lower rubber section coming off. Mostly the shoes are in good shape. Nothing else is wearing out. Running in the remnants of a hurricane today. And recently I have started noticing these rubber bottoms separating along the edges from the webbing upper. Right now it's fairly minor. It's just pulling away at the edges. If it stays like this, it's not at all a problem. But if this continues, they may not last more than a couple hundred miles. We just finished up a run in the rain, though most of the rain was vertical in the form of very large and deep puddles. These shoes held up really well, obviously more than say half an inch, and they're completely mesh on top, so your feet are going to get wet. But with a good pair of wool socks, they were comfortable, my feet stayed warm. They were wet, but that's what you expect. I know they do have a waterproof version of these shoes. This separation of the rubber that I had talked about earlier, it's not progressed as fast as I thought it was at the beginning. It stopped at about 1 centimeter in and hasn't gotten a lot deeper. There's a bit of wear here along the edge of the shoe as it rubs on the tongue and on my ankle, but not anything significant. So these lugs are holding up well. There's no splitting or breaking of them. And then the tread on the bottom of the lugs, there is a bit of wear on the front end of each of the lug, the small tread on the bottom of them. But overall, even the small tread on the bottom of the lugs is holding up fine. Here. I believe we're past 400 miles on these shoes and they're still holding up. I think we just passed the 400 mile mark and they're still in pretty good shape.